Right now, you are trespassing here. And I want you to leave.
Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be my full WandaVision Episode 4 video and Marvel Easter eggs. There were so many references here. They confirm most of my theories about what's really going on, but there were so many big WTF reveals, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, I'm doing videos for all of the episodes. Be sure to subscribe to get everything. We're also doing a Disney Plus giveaway for memberships. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and just post all your theories in the comments below. Careful for spoilers if you have not seen the episode yet, but I'll just number these as we go along and talk about Easter eggs. So the episode basically replays the events of the first 3 episodes, but from S.W.O.R.D's perspective. It's basically a S.W.O.R.D. Monica Rambeau episode, but it felt like a 30-minute Marvel movie. Like, give me the 30-minute version of Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Because it starts with Monica Rambeau remembering the events of her childhood. Like, the dialogue that you hear Brie Larson's voice, like she was credited in the episode. So the reason why she was in the credits is because they were playing dialogue directly from the Captain Marvel movie. It's basically her as a child remembering the events of the film. She's waking up in a hospital next to what she thought was her mother's bed, so that's where she got snapped, revealing that she was snapped like a lot of other people during Avengers Infinity War. So what we're seeing here is basically the events of the blip as they play out in real time. Like, you see people like literally just coming together in pieces. It's like a reverse version of being dusted. Literally, just play it in reverse. The hospital room that she's in is room 104. That's a bit of an Easter egg for Avengers number 104, where Trask from the X-Men comics is keeping Scarlet Witch trapped using her power to set up this big solar flare, which he believes will sterilize the entire Earth of the X gene. Getting rid of all mutants, and the Avengers and Vision have to save Scarlet Witch. I think that's a bit of an Easter egg for what happens with the Dome as they talk about her reality warping powers and her cosmic radiation later in the episode. I'll get into that too, because they revealed more about how her cosmic powers work. That's just her comic book reality warping ability. They really are taking Scarlet Witch OP during this series. Kevin Feige said they weren't joking around. She's gonna go full comic book Scarlet Witch. As she's running around, people in chaos, even the doctors are going crazy. Like, I have to call my family. I don't have time to treat patients. We find out that her mother, Maria Rambeau, that they referenced several times in the episode, has actually died of cancer in her old age. That's the reason she was in the hospital. But even though her operation was successful, because she wasn't snapped, she survived, but the cancer came back. So she wound up dying a couple years later during that 5-year time gap. This whole opening scene, though, is sort of an answer to the questions that everyone were asking the Russos when Avengers Endgame came out. Like, what would happen if all the people who were snapped while they were flying in an airplane 30,000 feet in the air, would the Hulk also be snapping them back 30,000 feet in the air? Would they rematerialize with no plane and then just fall to their deaths? Then a 3-week time jump later, after the events of Avengers Endgame, we pick up at S.W.O.R.D's headquarters on Earth, sort of like the S.W.O.R.D version of S.H.I.E.L.D's Project Pegasus base, and they answer a lot of questions about how long it's been around, how it was created, how it coexisted with S.H.I.E.L.D. this whole time. And even though we know that Monica Rambeau was a S.W.O.R.D agent from all the trailers months and months ago, we saw the symbol on her necklace back during episode 3 when Scarlet Witch went all Thanos on her, but they're very careful to let the camera linger in the lobby on this giant version of the symbol just to help people make that connection. They also spend a lot of time explaining what S.W.O.R.D does exactly and how it's different from S.H.I.E.L.D., and how a lot of what they do is in outer space, and how that's changed because of what happened during Avengers Infinity War with the Snap, Thanos, and then Avengers Endgame and the Blip. Like, you see all these orbital launch platforms because they were largely a space agency before the events of Avengers Infinity War, but they made some changes during the 5-year time jump just because things got so crazy on planet Earth. But this is the connection to Nick Fury's S.W.O.R.D space station with the Skrulls from the Spider-Man Far From Home post-credit scene. That's just another facility that they have in space where they conduct missions from. The acronym stands for Sentient Weapon Observation and Response Division. They're very careful to leave that up on the TV frame so people can read it for a long time. And then Monica Rambeau also later references it later when she's talking to him about their new weapons research. Like, wait a minute, what happened to the observe and response part? He's like, well, things got tough. We had to start making a whole bunch of weapons. You also keep in mind that beings like Scarlet Witch, Vision, Mutants, cosmic beings like Galactus, the Celestials, Thanos, Eternals, which we'll meet hopefully later this year. Please, Marvel, don't keep delaying your movies anymore. Those are all the sentient weapons that they're talking about. You also notice up in the monitors in the lobby, sort of helping you chart the timeline, you see all the news broadcasts of people celebrating in the streets. You see the WHIH news broadcasts. They're like Marvel's in-universe version of CNN that's shown up through Marvel Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 movies. Monica Rambeau enters to have a meeting with the new director, and they sort of explain what her relationship with S.W.O.R.D. was before this point. Her mother helped create it after the events of the Captain Marvel movie in combination with Nick Fury in S.H.I.E.L.D., so you have to think of S.W.O.R.D. as a branch agency of S.H.I.E.L.D., and she was just working with Nick Fury. Her mother was the former director of S.W.O.R.D. They revealed that Monica Rambeau grew up at this facility, obviously an earlier version of it. They probably changed it over time with new technology. But the Tyler Hayward director character she meets with is just a former colleague who did not get snapped, so they kind of explain that she probably would have wound up taking her mother's job and becoming the director of S.W.O.R.D., the new version of Nick Fury at S.W.O.R.D., had she not been snapped. A lot of people wondering if this guy is going to wind up secretly being a Skrull in disguise because they have the Nick Fury Avengers Secret Invasion series coming up, which there'll be a lot of S.W.O.R.D. stuff happening during that. It's always possible, but we don't know much about him, so we'll see what they reveal about his character in future episodes, if there are any clues about that. You notice the sign with all the different areas inside the base. They have flight crew operations, life systems, thermal systems, mechanics lab, maintenance area, avionics integration, mission control, mission operations, visitors viewing area, flight dynamics, mission simulation. That's just to remind you that it's kind of like a S.H.I.E.L.D. version of NASA, and mostly, at least before Avengers Infinity War, they were concerned with space flight missions, but now, as he says, they're moving more to artificial intelligence stuff, which is getting into more Iron Man and Avengers tech. Like he says that they lost a bunch of their astronauts in training because they got blipped, and when they came back, they're like, hell no, I'm not doing any more of these space missions anymore. But when he's talking about robotics, AI, that's stuff like Vision's technology. They're now in the business of creating literal and metaphorical sentient weapons as well. Some of you also probably noticed this really cool Easter egg for Avengers Infinity War here. When they're walking past the construction of all these spaceships and this technology lying around here, look at this engine part here. This is the same advanced engine that Iron Man had inside the Avengers base during Avengers Infinity War. Some of you may remember this a couple years ago. There was a big joke about this item because the Russo brothers tweeted this mysterious picture of it out before they'd released the first trailer, and the entire internet, myself included, were going crazy trying to figure out what it was supposed to be. Like, is this supposed to be a new weapon that they're going to use during the movie? Nope, turns out it was just a really advanced engine that was sitting in the background in the Avengers base. They never wound up using it during that movie, but apparently here they're going to be using it with S.W.O.R.D. So this is just confirming that S.W.O.R.D. got their hands on a lot of Iron Man and Avengers technology after Endgame. When he talks about enemies and threats from outer space, he's talking about Thanos mostly. Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet. It's also a bit of foreshadowing for all the Fantastic Four, Galactus, Celestial stuff that's going to be happening. Obviously, the Thor movies are very cosmic too, threats from outer space. But when she talks about friends and allies from space, she's also talking about Thor, the Skrulls, because most of the Skrulls are good within the MCU right now. I'll get into more of that when we talk about the Secret Invasion series, because there will be Skrulls that are doing bad things during that, per Kevin Feige. So not every single Skrull is going to be a good character. Her office inside here is room 101. That might be an Easter egg for Avengers 101, which is another Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver Avengers story about them having to save the world from this all-powerful person who goes around killing a bunch of innocent people, thinking that he's saving the world doing a good thing, but secretly winds up being the villain the whole time. I think that's a bit of foreshadowing for the reveal that Scarlet Witch is the villain of this episode, at least the villain of the series, WandaVision, so far. Ultimately, I don't think the idea is to demonize her as the true villain of the series. There are going to be more complex things in play, people manipulating her, but right now, she's meant to be the villain of the series. And when he talks about the FBI case, the missing persons case, you remember it's only been 3 weeks since the end of Avengers Endgame that this has started. But that explains why Jimmy Woo shows up from San Francisco. Like, what are you doing all the way over here? Oh, well, you had somebody in witness protection who just disappeared, and nobody, even his family, remembers who he is, doesn't even know he exists anymore. That's the crazy thing. That kind of lets you know how powerful Scarlet Witch is and how much her ability is affecting everyone. So I'll talk about that in a second, too. He also uses her captain name when Monica Rambeau takes off. That's just another reminder about her origin as the second version of Captain Marvel in the comics. Remember, she was Captain Marvel long before Carol Danvers became Captain Marvel in the comics. I know everybody's wondering when she's going to get her powers. Will it happen during WandaVision? Will it happen during the Captain Marvel 2 movie? Because that's where she's going to show up next. My assumption is that they'll just tease that and then they'll pay that off a little bit more during the actual movie. But then she heads to Westview. They confirm that it's in New Jersey, not too far from the former Avengers base in the New York City area, because most of the bigger events on Earth in the MCU take place in and around this part of the country. There is a lot of West Coast stuff happening during Marvel Phase 4 over on the other side of the United States, so I believe that Westview, the name, is also a bit of a reference to West Coast Avengers. Like, what happens after the regular Avengers? Well, you have the West Coast Avengers. We found out that Jimmy Woo has perfected his close-up magic, or at least gotten better at it. That's what 5 years worth of online magic courses will get you. I'm hoping if they pay off my theory about Doctor Strange showing up on the series crossing over because of Doctor Strange 2 stuff, that he'll have a scene with him, and I'll also try to show off for Doctor Strange, like, oh, you're a sorcerer, I'm something of a magician myself too, and then boom, try to magic a card up for him. There were a lot of record drop jokes like that with Jimmy Woo during the episode. I felt like he was actually pretty fantastic. He and Darcy together, they have some great scenes. But then they reveal how Scarlet Witch's alternate reality is affecting everyone else mentally, trying to keep everyone out. This sort of effect where it basically repels people as much as possible. Sort of messes with their minds to make them forget that Westview even exists. So like post all the memes, Westview, no, I'm from Eastview. They revealed that there's 3,892 people living inside the town. The dome itself, like the barrier, is about a 5-mile radius, so it's actually really big. Darcy, also later in the episode, talks about how it might wind up getting bigger too, which I think is more full-blown House of M references that they're making, like, oh no, this could get much worse, and eventually cover the entire planet. When she's pulling out the drone, the license plate for her car, I believe that's a bit of a reference to the WandaVision Funko Pops that they made for the show, because the one for Vision's character is number 718. That's right, they are selling pops for the WandaVision series. Of course they're going to sell toys for all the different Marvel Disney Plus series. They also confirmed that the blue drone that she tries to fly in is the red drone that shows up during episode 2, and it just changes because of the way her reality warping powers change to make it fit the scenario of the 1960s. They also sort of pay off that reference with the beekeeper from episode 2 as well. You find out he's just a regular sword agent wearing a hazmat suit, and when he crosses the barrier, Scarlet Witch's reality warping powers just change him to fit the scenario, so he looks period specific. Like the lifeline that he's hooked up to changes into a jump rope, and it also exists on the outside too. I keep talking about this, but it's more confirmation that the fake things that she creates with her reality warping powers inside this alternate reality will continue to exist in the real world. More of a reference to Wiccan and Speed, Billy and Tommy, her children, existing after the events of WandaVision. Like, yes, they're fake, but they will continue to be real and go to Young Avengers crossovers in future Marvel Disney Plus series. But then they confirm my theory about her touching the barrier and getting sucked in, like she's literally and metaphorically getting sucked into a TV show through a TV screen. Then 24-hour time jump later, the rest of the sword base has gone up, and we check back in with Darcy. Welcome back from all the Thor movies. She starts talking about cosmic microwave background radiation, which is just another reference to comic book Scarlet Witch powers of reality warping and chaos magic, like literally altering things on a massive, massive scale. That's how OP Scarlet Witch in the MCU is now. They'll get into that more in future episodes and explain how it works and just exactly how powerful she is. That's where you start spinning up into big Doctor Strange level stuff. Like when Darcy says that the radiation is only contained to this area for right now, she's sort of implying that eventually it might cover the entire Earth, so the entire Earth might start changing reality everywhere, for everyone will start warping according to what Scarlet Witch wants. So they're taking the MCU full-blown House of M. That's where you get to the reverse No More Mutants of it all, like potential for her to create mutants all over the world with her reality warping abilities. Then she detects the TV waves that are superimposed, and they start watching the Nick at Night episodes play out like, wait a minute, what's happening here? They keep referencing the hexagon pattern, like you see Jimmy Woo's whiteboard here, like what's going on, why hexagons? She reminds us that Vision is supposed to be dead, not Blip back, which just foreshadows the big twist at the end of the episode, that Vision is still dead and Scarlet Witch has been weekended burning him, walking around with his body like a puppet this whole time. We'll talk about that in a second too. That was one of the biggest WTF moments of the episode in the series so far. Then they have the montage of them slowly identifying all the townspeople, putting their pictures and their IDs up on the board. Notice that Agnes does not have an ID. She's the only person here that they can't find a name for. That's why she doesn't have a last name. It just reads Agnes. I think we all believe that she's going to be a version of Agatha Harkness from the comics. And if she is, that would imply that she's also a magic user like Doctor Strange, and she has some sort of ability, low-level powers that help her counteract what Scarlet Witch is doing, which is why she's one of the few people that seems like she's not totally affected by what's happening. It also seems like she's been manipulating Scarlet Witch ever since the events of episode 1. So maybe she had something to do with helping Scarlet Witch create this alternate reality, or at least convincing her that it was possible and she could do it. Then I love how they all flip out when they see Monica Rambeau all Stepford wives during the events of episode 2. Like, wait a minute, is she pretending? And it sort of explains how powerful Scarlet Witch's ability are, and that it alters people's memories to fit each different scenario through the different decades. Then they show you the other side of the scene of Jimmy Woo and Darcy trying to contact her using the radio in the events of episode 2. Wanda, can you hear me? Who's doing this to you? You also notice in the background you can hear the Help Me Rhonda Beach Boys song. That's also a song about a guy trying to get over his former girlfriend with another new girl, so you could also call their use of this song specifically another reference to Scarlet Witch trying to use this House of M scenario to process her grief over losing Vision. Then they watch one of Scarlet Witch's real-time edits happen where she rewinds things. Only for them it just plays out like a TV episode jump cut, like, wait a minute, what just happened? And they reveal that Darcy and the other sword agents in the real world can see the commercials just like we would see in a normal TV show. Like, there's actual commercial breaks in the broadcast feed that they're getting from inside the alternate reality. The reason the commercials are playing out and the sitcoms are happening this way, like a TV broadcast would, is because it's all coming from Scarlet Witch's subconscious. And that's why the events of the commercials are mostly references to her past, her origin, like they talk about Strucker will make time for you. That's her sort of processing all the things that have happened to her, the major events of her life. But because it's a bit of a subconscious thing, she's not totally aware of the way that it's happening and how it's manifesting for other people. Like, she doesn't know that the people in the real world are watching this play out like a commercial. Then they jump forward to the events of episode 3 and they start wondering why the decades of TV, why the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. It's also they can age her children up to adults and they can go cross over with other Young Avengers characters in Marvel Disney Plus shows. Then they finally reveal the end of episode 3 and what really happened, where you see the aspect ratio change from 4:3 to the movie aspect ratio. That's to let you know when you're no longer quote-unquote in the Matrix like simulation, like this is really happening and everyone sort of come to their senses. They start talking more about Ultron, and then she talks about her being this interloper. You're trespassing in my home, and I want you to leave. And she kicks her out, boom, punts her through the barrier, like she's getting punted out of a TV screen. I love Elizabeth Olsen's performance in this ending scene here. Pretty much everything that she does is just fantastic. They should give her an award for this. She's really horrified at what's happened because she's come to her senses, like, wait a minute, all these terrible things that I came here to escape, I'm thinking about them again. She slowly starts to pull herself back together at the sight of her children, but not before the big Vision reveal, big WTF reveal, that he's still very much dead, make all the Weekend at Bernie jokes. And the reason why he's speaking like that and she sees him that way, then changes back immediately, is because she's changing things on the fly with her reality warping powers and desires. So when he walks in, because she's still kind of shaken from the Ultron Quicksilver reference with Monica Rambeau, she's thinking about Vision being dead and why she came here in the first place, so literally he manifests that way until she quickly recomposes herself and changes him back to his regular appearance. And they make it very clear that Vision is pretty much the only person inside here that has no idea what's going on. He doesn't know that he's dead, and every time Scarlet Witch is changing things to sort of reverse him and make him go back to normal is to prevent him from learning that. When they make that reference about going anywhere, and she's like, no, we can't go anywhere, this is our home, that's because Scarlet Witch probably doesn't know that her reality warping powers will eventually, potentially cover the entire planet. Like, she doesn't know how big it's going to get. Then I love the way she goes out too. She says, I have everything under control. Like, she's definitely gone full-blown crazy town, but that's just more comic book Scarlet Witch references about her losing her mind, so to speak. And then it's probably pretty obvious why they're making the Jimi Hendrix Voodoo Child reference with the song track. The lyrics reference super powerful person chopping mountains in half, seeing people after they've died, so Scarlet Witch is the Voodoo Child in the metaphor. But if you spotted any big Easter eggs in the episode that I didn't mention in the video, just write them below in the comments. There's so much happening now. I feel like this is probably the best episode so far, and it's only supposed to get crazier and bigger Avengers level stuff happening the rest of the episodes. My full episode 5 video will post next Friday like normal, but I'll do more bonus videos about what's going on and Scarlet Witch in the MCU going forward, all the X-Men, the mutant stuff that's going on in the background, all the big Doctor Strange crossover stuff. While you wait for everything, click here for my brand new WandaVision Doctor Strange 2 crossover video, and click here for all my other WandaVision episode videos. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.